The Green Futures of Tycho by William Sleator. 8. The green end had become sharply faceted, like a jewel, and the color was more intense than it had been. The dials were clearer now. They no longer looked etched into the metal, but had dimension and relief, and wrapped around the middle of the egg was a thin, glittering filament. Tycho pored over it carefully for several minutes, not even trying to think. Then he forced it into his pocket and stretched out on the bed. He couldn't begin to imagine what this sudden metamorphosis might mean. Sophisticated though it was, the egg must be some kind of machine, and machines do not spontaneously change. Did that mean it was more than a machine? Could it be alive? That it didn't eat or breathe or try to communicate, as a living thing would do? There was more to the thing than he might even be able to comprehend. This thought only added to the confusion he felt about the possible effects of interfering with the past. And what about the horrible future he had visited in the bathroom, with the green bulbous shapes and the ruined house and the awful stench? What was that all about? And how distant was it? What was he getting himself into? The gardening really did seem to have made him sleepy. He closed his eyes and soon drifted off. The voices in his dream were like music. The stories they told, weaving into an endless silvery tune. The dim vistas and the figures moving through them were only half seen, drifting colors and shapes. What was so beautiful and so seductive was that it did not matter that he could not understand what they were telling him. It did not matter at all. A brutal thumping sound and an unpleasant ordinary voice dragged him away from the dream. He opened his eyes to find Tamara standing in the doorway. "Come on, Tycho, get up," she told him. "Judy says you can't sleep all day. You have to get your chores and studying and projects. You still have your chores and studying and projects to work on." She glared at him, then pushed her head forward aggressively. "Come on, Tycho, you can't just lie there all day. Get up." Tycho rubbed his eyes and peered at her from the pillow. Something was wrong. He felt more dazed than ever as he sat up slowly. "Tamara," he said huskily, Since when did you have braces?" "Huh?" she said, wrinkling her forehead at him. "What's the matter with you? I've had the stupid thing since I was 13. "Have you?" he said. Now he was beginning to be wide awake. The braces did not seem so strange after all. "Oh, that's right. Funny that I would forget something that's so obvious." "Obvious?" Tamara lifted her carefully drawn eyebrows. "Thanks a lot, Tycho. That makes me feel great." "But I didn't mean it that way." "Yes, you did." She was almost crying, which was not like her. "Why do you always make fun of me? You know how self-conscious I am about my braces. I'm telling Judy." She turned and flounced away. He spent the rest of the day in the basement, cleaning and polishing and adjusting his telescope. It was an activity he knew would mollify Bobby and Judy, and he wanted the dust to settle. He had allowed too many odd things to happen. He had to be very careful now not to give anything else away. After dinner, he even remembered to steal out into the yard, get the bathrobe, and smuggle it back into Bobby's closet without being noticed, and without using the egg. From now on, he decided he would only use it late at night after everyone had gone to bed. That way, sudden comings and goings would be less noticeable, and he would also have something to look forward to every day. And tonight, he would do something purely for fun that could not possibly have any serious repercussions. He lay awake in bed for an hour that night, then got out his flashlight and burrowed under the covers. The dials were easier to work now, and he set them with great care. Then he forced himself to wait, restless in the darkness for a while longer. This jump could not be made from inside the house, and he had to be sure no one heard him go outside. As he waited, he went over his plan again and again, until he had convinced himself that he was not making another mistake. The past had already gone by. It was probably just as well not to mess with it. His past, in particular, had been miserable. He knew what had happened. Why dwell on it? The future, on the other hand, was new, uncharted territory. He had often wondered what he would be when he grew up. His brothers and sister had always known, and were devoting their childhoods to preparing for their careers. That situation had only exaggerated Tycho's vagueness about his own vocation, but recently he had come to realize that what they called wishy-washy might really be just an might be just an interest, might really be an interest in a wide variety of subjects. There were so many fascinating things in the world, so much to choose from. What was his choice going to be? Something about this new adventure gnawed at him, but he put it aside. After all, he wasn't doing anything dangerous, like interacting with the past. Which might have unexpected effects on the present? What harm could a little peek at the future do? How could he change anything there? It would be so much fun. What would buildings look like then, and cars? What kind of clothes would people wear? What would airplanes be like, and television? Only 25 minutes had gone by, but he couldn't wait any longer. Slowly, he slipped down the stairs, pausing to wait and listen at every creak. He heard the faint jingle of a bed spring, a delicate snore, but no voices, no lights, no footsteps. He leapt across the backyard, free in the moonlight. He was traveling too far this time to hide in the bushes. They might have grown so much, but there would be no room for him. He crouched behind the oak tree instead. Again he checked the dials. In 20 years he would be 31, certainly old enough for something interesting to have happened to him, but 20 years was still not so far away that everything would be completely alien. The outfit he had picked, sneakers, blue jeans, and a t-shirt, had been an unintrusive way to dress for decades, as far as he could tell from old pictures. It was likely that in 20 years the same clothes would not be noticeably old-fashioned. If Bobby and Judy had moved, he would have a serious problem trying to find himself, but he was pretty sure that they would still be here. They loved this house, regarded it as their permanent home, were settled and happy with it, and had not nearly finished paying for it yet. And if they had moved, and he could find out what had happened to him, then he could just come back, with no harm done. Then what was gnawing at him? Nerves, he told himself, because his last adventure had not worked out exactly as he expected. He was more experienced now. This time, nothing would go wrong. He pressed down the green end and felt faint, and jumped into the future. 20 years and 12 hours exactly. And that's the end of chapter 8.